It's hard to believe that over a year has passed since I began work on this casting. In July of 2020, I was chatting online with Brian, Diecast OutKast, Funky of Scale Street Garage, and Kristian of 1st and 64th Customs. We get online and we'll chat and joke around, and for whatever reason that evening, we had the idea of each of us making a car that we thought the other one would drive. And knowing this group, Lord only knows how those were going to turn out. They'd be some bizarre cars. So before the idea could be finalized, though, life gets in the way. A couple of the guys quit building for a while, and like so many ideas and stuff, you joke around and stuff, and then most of these things just kind of fade off into the distance. But right after we had that chat, I remembered a casting that I received from TimeRider. This one, the Matchbox Glass King. And I thought, Kristian is the King of Styrene. The man can make anything out of styrene. And so I thought, well, I'll make this into a styrene hauler. So that's the idea behind this. Instead of it carrying glass, it's actually carrying styrene sheets. So to catch up with where we are in the video, there's the back portion, and that's plastic. I sprayed it silver already, and right now I'm kind of dry brushing some silver over it. Not totally dry brush, a semi-dry brush, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. And I was just messing around with this thing. I wanted to try different approaches because this is just kind of a fun build. And, you see everything I build. I don't recall doing a build that I didn't show, good or bad. Now here what I'm doing is I masked off the front of that because I wanted to save the glass, and I sprayed the back white off camera. This is one of those experiments. I've never done the salt rusting, and I thought, well, I'll weather this thing and let me try this. Of course, I approached it entirely wrong, even though I've seen videos of some of the best doing this stuff, and I still screwed it up. And so, I tried flaking that off to give the rust underneath the opportunity to show through, and yeah, I ended up just restripping it. I thought, well, so much for weathering it. I'm just going to shoot this thing white. By that point, this back half had dried up, and so I went over the back with Nuln Oil to give it a nice, again, realistic look to it. I don't want this to be bright, shiny metal back there. I want it to be, to look like it's a service vehicle, like it's, out there working. Because Lord knows, if this thing's carrying styrene to Kristian, it's probably stopping by his house at least once a week. So, I'm doing that kind of thing on this. So I just tried some different things. I'm screwing around, to be honest with you, but I printed these super small 1st and 64th Customs decals. Really small. These freaking things are like the size of a pencil eraser. Oh, look at the Q-tip next to it. That gives you a good idea. They're freaking tiny. And naturally his logo's at an angle too, so I couldn't just put it on there flat. So, got those tiny things worked out. And this was a pain in the butt. I'm only going to show you one side of it. Got it to work. That is enamel that I shot down there, the white, and it was okay. It wasn't great. Stupidly, I went over, you can see how I masked off that part because I wanted the glass to work, but I went over the front with the silver Sharpie, which was fine. I probably should have, for the headlight portion, instead of going over those with silver Sharpie, done the silver Sharpie on the inside and let the blue clear glass be the reflector. Let the silver behind it be the reflector. But no, I was stupid. I think it turns out okay, but it's one of those things where you look back on things and it's like, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. I should have tried hiding the post on the inside so you don't see this big, basically white post when this thing's finished. But I didn't. I could go back and paint it now, but you'll see. I went over the markers with the Tamiya Clear Orange. These are the markers just on the clear portion of the clear glass area, that portion of the casting. And I do go over the ones on the metal portion a little bit later. One thing new for me on this was, well, I'll get to that in a second. I went over with tire black the mud flaps because I didn't want just bright shiny black. The tire black really does have a rubberized look to it. It's a great little paint for this kind of thing. I think it looks more tire-like than Nuln Oil over black. It's hard to describe, but it truly has a rubber look to it. It's not too black, if you know what I mean. And here I am doing, all the rest of the marker lights, these on the metal part of the casting. Those I had gone over with the silver Sharpie before. It's tough to say. I've had problems with that before too. And again, when you put this clear orange over the silver from the Sharpie, it gives it a pretty good reflector look. There you can see how the decals finished up on there. They needed to be small decals because the casting's actually really small. I didn't want it to look stupid. Now here was something, I busted out the pledge and I just end up dipping the glass from the front half in the pledge because this thing actually fits really snug inside of the metal casting. It comes up from underneath and it also, there's those fins in the back or the styrene in the back. And so I wanted the glass to be shiny. I wanted it to look better, but I thought gauzy would be too thick in this situation. I thought there was a good chance when I shoved it up into that casting, it'd scrape it. And like I recently had that problem on the hot rod, the McDonald's hot rod casting. You may recall that I had a problem with the back window. I thought, I'm not going to let that bite me again on something like this. So I just dipped the front half and then you just set it aside, let it dry. The pledge will make another appearance here in a little bit, but there you see the gunmetal paint. I painted the tanks on the side of the bottom of the casting with that. Again, just trying to add detail. You see, I've already painted that tire on there with tire black. And if you look closely, you can see the difference between that and the regular black. You can kind of see it there. And then I use this tin colored paint to do the straps that are on the tank. Well, the cap and the straps on the tank. And what was new for me is I have actually airbrushed. I used this cheapo airbrush. I wasn't going to use the good one that Eddie gave me. I used that to shoot Revive It pledge on the white casting. I had seen that on Barbados Rex YouTube channel. And so I can't say I've never airbrushed before anymore. It was interesting. I'm going to do it again, and to do the clear coat. I used that for the clear coat because I didn't want it to yellow. And he did a recent review on his channel of the Pledge clear coat, and he does wonderful reviews. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, Barbados Rex does fantastic stuff. And he also, I think, is how I found out about that. That's a $10 airbrush from Harbor Freight, but it's a weird airbrush. It's not your regular airbrush. It's basically like a rattle can in a way. The wheels, I wanted to do a wheel swap, but I couldn't get, without resin printing something, I couldn't find wheels that I would like on this. They were all either too big or too small because of this odd casting size. So I went over the wheels with the silver Sharpie, and I couldn't have asked for a better result. I'm pretty darn happy with it. So that basically wraps up the build. I tried some odds and ends. I had some failures on it, like the salt that, I've never wanted to try that before. I haven't found it that appealing, but I thought, well, let's give it a shot on this thing. And it failed. The airbrushing of the pledge is somewhere between a success and a fail. But I think getting the decals with Kristian's logo on there turned out well. And all in all, Kristian's a hell of a good guy. And I'm hoping he just cracks up when he sees this video. Because he doesn't know I'm messing around with this stupid casting, and I'm going to mention him in this video, so it's a surprise to him. And it's not a great build. It's an okay build. But I hope he gets a laugh out of it, and I hope all of you do too. I think it's interesting. How's that? There's definitely a lot more detail to it. There you see the styrene sheets in the back. I started to stick scraps of real styrene back there, and they look totally out of place. There you see the post, nice and clear through the front shiny glass that I probably should paint a dark color. I even painted the windshield wipers on this, which is something I virtually never do. But I don't know, I was messing around. You got to do these builds too, for fun and laughs builds. That you learn on these kinds of things. And, I'm bringing all of you along on these builds, kicking and screaming, and they turn out good, great. If they turn out bad, great. It's another build that I have the experience from, and hopefully you don't mind coming down this path with me. So, thank you all for watching these videos. I hope you got a laugh from this one. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. And special thanks also to my Patreon supporters. Thanks for all of your help with these. Everybody, stay safe and healthy out there. Catch you in the next one.